Beethoven wrote his Moonlight Sonata in the year 1801, and in 1802 he dedicated it to his 17-year-old sweetheart. He was nearly 32, Giulietta Guicciardi. He actually asked for her hand, as indeed he did a whole number of ladies asked for their hand in marriage, and he was turned down. This sonata was written in Hungary on the Brunswick estate, and Beethoven didn't call it the Moonlight Sonata. He probably never considered a moonlight backdrop to this piece. In fact, it was a poet who was looking out over Lake Lucerne who felt inspired to call it the Moonlight Sonata. It's in the key of C-sharp minor, so you should learn the arpeggio and the scale of C-sharp minor so that you can key into this piece. Many beginners want to play this music. This is very popular music. Everybody who plays the piano wants to be able to do and make those glorious sounds. And so when they come to this in an uninitiated fashion, they look at the key signature, which is very frightening to them, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and D sharp. So from that moment on, they're examining every single note to see if it happens to be one of those, because they know it will sound dreadful unless they make it into a sharp. That's not how a musician reads music. A musician learns the key of C-sharp minor and its related chords, like the subdominant chord, the dominant chord, and its related keys, like the other key, which has a key signature of 4 sharps, is E major. E major, we say, is the relative major of C-sharp minor. And the musician keys into the piece with that set of notes in his head. There are major issues for a pianist in this opening, and it's a wonderful opportunity for piano teachers to show how we pedal. When we hold notes down with the pedal, we can afford to let them go. And when we release the pedal, the notes are silenced. We always need to be careful when we go from one chord to another, so that we do not get a clash, a dissonance. We wouldn't want those bass notes to sound together. So we need a perfect movement from one chord to another, which doesn't overlap, not even for a second like that, and which doesn't break like that, which will happen if you put your foot down on the second left-hand octave. That's how generally amateur pianists will approach this piece. They will put their foot down on the first octave, and because they want to put their foot down on the second left-hand octave, they must now lift their foot up before they play it, at which point the piano's doing nothing, and then they go down with it. And so they put a break at the bar line. When you change the pedal going from one harmony to another, your foot comes up at the exact moment the note goes down, and then the foot goes down and catches that, and then your foot comes up at the exact moment the next goes down. And generally speaking, throughout this piece of music, your foot, your right foot, will come up as your left hand bass notes go down. And in that bar I've just played, you have one of the most important principles in piano playing. That is, what the piano will not do for you. You play the long note of the melody, and you can push it as hard as you like, and it's still going to get softer. That is the limitation of the piano. It is not a sustaining instrument, which means that you must listen to the note not just at the strike, but you need to carry on listening right through the length of the note, which will also mean, in turn, adjusting the accompaniment underneath it to the amount of note that is left above those accompanying notes. It's got to be so soft there, because there's not much of that G sharp left by the time you get to the end of that particular bar. The time signature of this piece is the letter C with a vertical line through it. That does not mean 4/4 time. That is not common time. That is alla breve, or cut common time, which is actually 2 minim beats in the bar. So in terms of these triplet quavers, there are 6 quavers per beat. What is a beat? A beat is a throb. It's a physical movement. How slow can we actually do that? If we're going to play it that is an incredibly slow beat to maintain, and the slowest mark on a metronome is 40. And your long notes will not last through all that time. So I think Beethoven is indicating to us, don't go too slow here, given the nature of the instrument. So he would probably, I think, have played this piece at this speed. At the beginning, there's a very important and very enigmatic instruction. We are told, si deve suonare tutto questo pezzo delicatissamente e senza sordina, which means one has to play this piece delicately and without mutes. What does that mean, without mutes? That suggests to me that Beethoven didn't want us to use the left pedal. But surely everybody uses a left pedal in the Moonlight Sonata. Well, there was another fundamental difference between Beethoven's piano and the one we have here today. The vast majority of our notes, certainly the top 2/3 of this keyboard, have 3 strings per key. Beethoven only had 2. Now, on a grand piano, when you put the left pedal down, the whole keyboard slides to the right and takes the hammers with it. So on this piano, when the hammer normally comes up without the left pedal, it will hit 3 strings. Now that goes to the right and hits 2 strings. On Beethoven's piano, he only had 2 strings, and so when it hit 1 string, there was a radical alteration in sound, which was evidently too much for him. So he says, do not use the left pedal, given that you've only got 2 strings per note. We have 3. So I think that possibly, we should consider disregarding some of that instruction in order to get the same kind of effect that he would perhaps have had on his 2 strings. We can play on 2 strings too if we use the left pedal. That is just something for you as an individual to consider.